The government confirms all incumbent lawmakers can continue to perform duties in their extended term without taking another oath. Jimmy Lai and Agnes Chow were freed on bail after being arrested by the police. And new COVID-19 cases in Hong Kong go back up to 62.
Hello and a very good evening. The SAR government has confirmed that all incumbent lawmakers can continue to perform their duties without having to take another oath.
This after the National People's Congress Standing Committee approved an extension of the current term of the Legislative Council. Kana Chu has our top story.
It is shaping up to be quite the week for members of the Legislative Council as the fog clears over conundrums of a political vacuum arising from an election delay. With the blessing of Beijing, all incumbent legislators can stay on for at least one more year without having to renew their oaths. That includes the 4 pan-democratic lawmakers who were barred from the LegCo race originally scheduled for September. Operations of the extended term are anticipated to kick off in October, but members of the pan-democratic camp are pondering whether to boycott the legislature or stay on.
When we return to LegCo, I think we should again resume reviewing the rules of procedure and update them. For example, electing chairperson or panel, it shouldn't be done by whoever is the most senior, or vice chairman. It should be done by someone completely neutral, independent, such as the secretarial staff, to avoid undue filibuster.
Quoting the city's leader, the New People's Party said the government hopes to focus on boosting the economy in the extended LegCo term. Having met Chief Executive Carrie Lam today, another pro-Beijing group, the Federation of Trade Unions, urged the authorities to convene a special meeting of the Finance Committee to beef up support for workers during the pandemic. The CE has been seeing members of the pro-establishment camp over LegCo's latest arrangements. DAB member Horst Zhang supported the government's lack of plans to hold a by-election before the 2021 polls. There is no word yet concerning when the city's leader will meet those lawmakers of the pro-democracy bloc. Kana Chu, TVB News.
Media tycoon Jimmy Lai and democracy activist Agnes Chow were freed last night after their arrest for allegedly breaking national security laws.
They were among 10 arrested earlier this week over the controversial new law. Pinky Wong has the story.
Jimmy Lai was released on bail late last night, nearly 2 days after being arrested under the national security law. He was mobbed by a large crowd of media and supporters outside Mong Kok police station. Many chanted "Support Apple Daily" until the end. The media tycoon was detained for around 40 hours. The most important thing for me now is to get some rest, as I'm quite tired, the 72-year-old said before expressing his thanks and waving goodbye to his supporters. Lai was at his home in Ho Man Tin till this morning. He later paid a visit to Apple Daily's newsroom in Cheung Kwan O. Sources say his bail was set at $300,000 cash with $200,000 surety. Police have reportedly frozen some of $50 million worth of assets of some of the arrestees, including Lai. The 9 others arrested were also granted bail yesterday. They face allegations of collusion with a foreign country or external elements to endanger national security and conspiracy to defraud. Last night, Lai's older son Timothy and younger son Ian left Cheung Sa Wan and Cheung Kwan O police stations respectively. Some Apple Daily executives were also apprehended earlier. Chang Kim-hong, deputy CEO of Nix Digital, left Sao Mau Ping police station, saying he's thankful for readers showing their support for Apple Daily. When a reporter asked whether he thinks the arrest is political prosecution, he responded, "Justice lies in the people's heart." Former Damo Sisto member Agnes Chow, also released last night, described the arrest as the most frightening experience.
The political prosecution this time was very ridiculous, and actually in late June this year, I have already declared that I shall not participate in any of the connections and any of the works in the international arena. So I would say that it's very obvious that the regime and the government is using the national security law to suppress political dissidents. And this kind of situation would not only happen on me, but will happen on more and more Hong Kong people.
According to sources, the other arrestees' bail was set between $20,000 and $200,000 plus surety. All of their travel documents have been confiscated. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
The city recorded 62 new COVID-19 infections today, almost doubling yesterday's case count. All but one are locally acquired. One nurse has been infected while 2 others have preliminarily tested positive.
The death toll also increased to 63 after the coronavirus claimed 4 more lives. Jackie Lin reports.
Nearly half of the newly registered infections have unknown sources. That's on top of 30 more presumptive cases and yet another Indonesian domestic helper who contracted the virus. She left her former employer July 24th and stayed with 5 other helpers in the virus-stricken Haven Court on Leighton Road. This month, she moved to Sai Kung to live with her new employer, and the 11 family members are now listed as close contacts. Tracing some infections won't be easy. That's because health authorities say the landlord of this hostel, which housed an earlier infected domestic helper, refused to cooperate. The virus is also affecting medical workers, as a nurse from Easton Hospital is among the newly diagnosed. She has not come into contact with any COVID patients at work, but there's one confirmed case in the building where she lives. 13 of her colleagues will be quarantined. Another nurse from the psychiatric ward at United Christian Hospital has a preliminary positive test. The ward in question will stop admitting new patients. One presumptive case involves another nurse from the Department of Health. She performs administrative duties and does not work with the public.
None of them have contacted confirmed cases or performed high-risk procedures in the hospital. It can be a chance that they contracted the disease in the community.
5 more infections are linked to the Kwai Chung container terminal, taking its total to at least 14. The cluster from a Fan Lane construction site also reported 2 new infections.
We cannot say that the situation is improving. The number of confirmed cases each day would fluctuate. It may have to do with the timing of the returning of samples. And also, we still have a number of cases which have unknown origins.
Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Starting today, residents from Zhuhai can resume processing entry permits to Macau. That will gradually be extended to all mainland residents who can start applying on September 23rd. Some Zhuhai travel agencies said they have not received any information from the local government about the changes and haven't organised group tours yet. They also believe that since proof of negative tests are needed to enter Macau, that may reduce travellers' desire to visit.
New Zealand's largest city of Auckland returned to lockdown as the country reported 4 new coronavirus cases. Officials are also awaiting the test results of 4 more people they suspect have infections. Health authorities are scrambling to trace the source after they confirmed 4 cases of the virus in one Auckland household. Of the 4 suspected cases, 2 are work colleagues of a man who tested positive. The others are relatives of the 4 confirmed patients. Prior to this cluster, New Zealand had gone 102 days without a local infection. Meanwhile, Australia suffered its deadliest day of the pandemic. The state of Victoria reported a record 21 virus deaths and 410 new cases in the city of Melbourne. 16 fatalities were linked to elderly care facilities. A recent outbreak in Melbourne forced authorities to impose a night curfew and close business. 3 student bloggers were fined more than $1,600 Australian dollars after a social media video surfaced showing them breaking curfew.
On to some other news now, and France's data privacy watchdog says it's making preliminary investigations into the video creation app TikTok. It says it's launching an investigation after receiving a complaint against the app in May. TikTok, owned by China's ByteDance, is already under investigation over privacy concerns by US, European Union and Dutch authorities. The United States says TikTok poses a national security risk because of the personal data it handles, which it suspects it could be handed over to Chinese authorities. US President Donald Trump has threatened to ban TikTok and has given ByteDance 45 days to negotiate a sale of TikTok's US operations to Microsoft.
Still ahead on the news, Joe Biden picks Kamala Harris as his running mate in the U.S. presidential election. The top opposition candidate in Belarus's presidential election leaves for Lithuania as protests against the vote results continue. And in Taiwan, the visiting U.S. Health Secretary pays tribute to the late President Lee Teng-hui. Welcome back. U.S. presidential candidate Joe Biden has named Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate in November's election.
It's the first time ever a woman with Black and Asian heritage has been picked to run on a major party ticket, and Biden is hoping the choice will convince minority voters to choose him over Trump. Speculation had been mounted for weeks over who Joe Biden would pick as his running mate in November's presidential election. In the end, the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee selected Senator Kamala Harris as his choice for vice president. Biden's choice makes Harris the first woman with Black and South Asian heritage to be on a major party ticket in the U.S. presidential poll. In a tweet, Harris said she was honored to join Biden on the Democratic ticket. In Harris, a 55-year-old senator who made her own run for the White House, Biden gains an experienced politician, already battle-tested by the 2020 campaign.
I would say that what is exciting about watching this election is that it changes the face of the future of the Democratic Party, and I think sets a tone for where we may be going when it comes to politics in this country.
In the White House, U.S. President Donald Trump said he was surprised by the choice, saying Harris is too far left and wants to raise taxes and slash funds for the military.
She's also known, from what I understand, as being just about the most liberal person in the U.S. Senate, and I would have thought that Biden would have tried to stay away from that a little bit.
Harris joins Biden's campaign at a time when race has been thrust to the forefront of the campaign after weeks of protests erupted across America following the killing of George Floyd, a black man, at the hands of a white police officer in Minneapolis. Biden will need the support of minority voters in November if he hopes to defeat Donald Trump in the election. The support of black voters especially will be crucial in battleground states such as Michigan, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, where Trump prevailed in 2016. Biden's choice is also significant given his age has led to speculation that he may only serve one term if elected, making Harris a potential top contender for nomination in 2024.
He may well be anointing the next president of the United States, and the idea that in that process he is anointing a woman and a woman of color makes this a very significant pick.
Biden and Harris will appear together later on Wednesday at an event in Delaware. Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya has fled abroad after the incumbent president claimed re-election victory, sparking mass demonstrations across the country.
Lithuania has given Tsikhanouskaya a one-year visa and a place to stay and said it would ensure her safety. Daniel Rowell has more on this story.
Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya announced the decision to leave Belarus in a YouTube video late on Tuesday. She stated that she fled on her own accord for the safety of her children. A second clip followed where the politician apologized to her supporters, whilst urging them to protest peacefully. Her campaign managers have since asserted that she was coerced into recording the messages. This after she was detained by police on Monday for complaining about the Belarusian electoral process. Tsikhanouskaya's destination is neighbouring Lithuania, with her arrival being confirmed by the country's foreign minister, Linas Linkevicius, on Twitter. The move comes after protesters clashed with police for a third straight night throughout Belarus. The demonstrations were sparked by Sunday's controversial general election, which saw President Alexander Lukashenko, who's been in power since 1994, win 80% of the vote amid accusations of corruption. Lukashenko has since dubbed those who doubt the legitimacy of his victory sheep controlled by foreign actors. European Commission spokesperson Peter Stano was quick to express concern about the state of democracy in Belarus in light of Tikhanovskaya's departure.
And based on the information we are receiving and we are seeing so far, there are reasonable doubts about the accuracy of the election results which were announced by the Central Electoral Commission. The authorities have to hear the voice of their people. They have to respect their fundamental rights.
The EU is reportedly preparing to sanction Lukashenko's government over Sunday's general election as Svetlana Tikhanovskaya begins her exile. Daniel Rell, TVB News.
U.S. Health Secretary Alex Azar paid respects to the late Taiwanese leader Lee Teng-hui at a memorial set up at the Taipei Guest House. The visit rounded off Azar's 4-day trip to the island. He presented flowers at the memorial in remembrance of Taiwan's first directly elected president. He also wrote down a note paying tribute to Lee. Azar is the highest-level U.S. official to visit Taiwan in 4 decades, in a trip condemned by Beijing, which claims the island as its own territory. It comes during a time of frosty relations between the U.S. and China. Cathay Pacific has posted a $9.9 billion first-half loss as the coronavirus pandemic crushed air travel worldwide. The airline says it doesn't expect a rebound in passenger demand anytime soon amid a looming global recession and intensifying geopolitical tensions. Haley Zhou reports.
Cathay Pacific has reported a $9.9 billion loss for the first half, in line with an estimate it announced earlier. Passenger revenue tumbled 72.2% to $10.4 billion. Cathay Pacific and Cathay Dragon flew 4.4 million passengers in the first 6 months, down 76% on last year. In April and May, it only flew an average of 500 passengers a day.
I don't think we're expecting the second half to be better than the first half at this point in time.
The airline previously said it planned to operate 10% of normal passenger capacity in August, but that timeline has now been pushed.
We're expecting to be in sort of high single digits passenger capacity in August. September, probably very similar. It's possible that we might edge into double digits potentially in October.
The International Air Transport Association has forecast it'll take at least until 2024 to restore pre-crisis air passenger demands. Cathay, Hong Kong's flagship airline, rejected speculations that rising Sino-US tensions could hit it harder than other airlines.
I wouldn't describe ourselves as any more vulnerable than other people in the industry.
But there are some bright spots. Cathay's cargo revenue has gone up by 8.8% year-on-year to $11.2 billion due to a reduced cargo capacity in the market. It also completed a $39 billion recapitalization plan today, which gave the government a 6% stake in the airline.
Cathay Pacific must find a way to return to profitability in order to generate that return for our shareholders and for the Hong Kong government.
Haley Zhou, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Bye for now. Good night.